This first one I would solve exactly like we were doing yesterday. The second one I'm going to show you a little bit of a different trick. Some people might like, but it's not, but it's, all these questions are the same. There's nothing different from what we saw yesterday. So it's just more practice, more practice, more practice. Yeah, as long as you end up correct. Our first step is we're adding logarithms with the same base so we can multiply the arguments. That's super important. Okay, necessary first step. As Isaac said, restrictions have to be done as well, so we'll do those too. If x has to be greater than -1 and x has to be greater than -3, by deductive reasoning, x has to be greater than -1. If it's greater than -1, it will be greater than -3. So only one of our restrictions ends up counting in this case. What do I do next? Rewrite this in exponential form. So the base stays the same. This is the base. So 2 to the 2, there's my exponent, which is a bit confusing because both 2's, I know, but hopefully that's clear, equals the other part, which is the argument. Because the base was 2, and that over there is the exponent. I'm rewriting in logarithmic form, or sorry, in exponential form. Watch. Log base 2 of 8 equals 3. 2 or 8 equals 2 to the 3. Whenever you're stuck, write out one that you know. Write this out and think about which parts go where. You know what I mean? We know that 2 to the 3 is 8. So write it out like this and then apply it to the one that's got x's and stuff in it. That could be a helpful trick. Okay, so we're done. I'm going to do b squared minus 4ac, and it gives me 20. So we're done. Is that true? Not factorable, but we can still solve it. So be careful of these when they show up on the test later on, that you always solve it. We're not done at this step. Solve them. Negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Often with these, we're going to want exact answers. So I get negative 4. 20 is 4 times 5. Square root of 4 is 2. So this ends up being plus or minus 2 root 5. And make sure you know how to reduce these. This ends up being negative 2 plus minus the square root of 5. It's also easier to enter on your calculator, which even though we want exact answers, you have to put it into your calculator so that you can see which one, if either or both, don't fit our restrictions. But I think you'll find in this case, this one's extraneous. Any questions? Okay, next one. So I'm going to show you a little bit of a different way that you could organize your solution or think through, and it'll work for all of them. There's nothing special about this one. It's another same kind of question. Start with restrictions. If x has to be greater than 6 and x has to be greater than -1, then x has to be greater than 6. Okay, and then my first step is to simplify on the left side. But hold on. Some people might prefer, you could do every question like this. How do I rewrite the right side as a log of base 2? What do I put here? So that I would get 3. 8, or even more simply, what would you write? You would write 8, that's fine. Samir, what were you thinking? 8, or 2 to the 3. You could write, which is 8, like I get it, but like if it's log base 2 of 2 to the something equals that something. So you don't even have to think about what that is or do any calculations. It's just log base 2 of 2 to the that. Okay? Which in this case is 8, which actually we're going to have to evaluate eventually anyway. But if we do this, this is now becomes a log equals log type, and you don't have to think about how to rewrite in exponential form. If that's the part that you're confused by, that we did in the last example here, where I rewrite in exponential form, if that's the part that you're getting stuck at, you can always rewrite a constant as log base whatever this base is, log base 2 of 2 to that constant, because this would re-evaluate back to 3, so it's the same thing. Does that make sense? And then the idea of log equals log, I get x minus 6, x plus 1 equals 2 to the 3, which is what we would have gotten if we had rewritten it in exponential form anyway. So it gets us to the exact same step. It's just a different way of doing it. And some people might like log equals log better. Some people find that to be more of a step-by-step structured way of doing it. Okay, then I just expand, simplify, and solve. B squared minus 4AC works out to, I can't remember, 25 plus 4 times 14, 81. You can probably see that it was factorable already, but again, that's a way that we can always go ahead and check. I believe my restriction was x has to be greater than 6. One of these is, the other one isn't. Extraneous. Any questions about that one? We're going to do one more. Will you ever see one where, like, have you seen one yet where you don't have an extraneous solution? In the homework, were there any? Or you may not be at the homework. I know some people are probably more worried about the quiz, but in all of the ones we have solved, one of them was always extraneous. Do you think it's always like that? Would you ever have 2 solutions? How could you figure that out? How could you convince yourself one way or the other? Isaac, what do you think? Yeah, I'm not sure I fully understand. If the question was set up with a negative base, then there would be no solution. Yeah, that's true. But if it's set up like this, what does the graph of a logarithm look like? How does that help?